Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Brand Your Practice podcast, where you get to learn about branding, marketing, and scaling your private practice. I'm Brent Stutzman, and today we're going to be talking about 3 local SEO tips to start growing your private practice today. And to help me do that is Liz and Robert Cortez, founder of RebelFish Local. Liz works alongside her husband, Robert, at RebelFish Local. It only took 87 counseling sessions to argue less and learn how to be in a dual relationship, which is not easy to do. They believe businesses with great reputations deserve to outsmart the big guys online so they can make a local impact and grow. Local SEO is the number one way they've helped businesses make it through this pandemic. Welcome to the show, Liz and Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to be talking about the 3 local SEO tips that counselors can use to grow their private practice. But first, it sounds like your business, RebelFish Local, was born out of kind of a dramatic series of events. Could you share a little bit about that?
It was. We were working through with another agency.
Yes.
And just part-time while we were doing a ministry program at church and just figuring out what we were going to do next. Robert was in the restaurant industry before, had restaurants, had different businesses that he built up and sold. But we were ready for something new, and we thought digital marketing was the way to go. But instead of starting our own business, we decided to work for someone else that had a very successful marketing agency. Mm-hmm. And they gambled away all the money and let go of half the company. So after Christmas, we were like, okay, I guess we could do this ourselves. That was our plan. Not right now, but...
Yeah, it was a very sudden experience, very traumatic in terms of like 1 minute you're doing great, you're taking vacations, you're doing well. And the next minute, you don't have a job. You know, it was a 24-hour event, and we just decided, well, you know what? I guess we're going to do this like right now ourselves, and we're going to figure this out. And so
we got a phone call.
We got a phone
from
call
a friend
a week later. It was about 2 weeks. I decided to go to the beach and take some time, listen to God for a few hours, find out that my frustration and which led to some depression that day. Like, wow, this is a lot harder than I think, you know. Then life in general is hard, and you have to learn how to cope with the ups and the downs. And Liz was the one who said, go to the beach. You're like a mess. Go hang out at the beach for a couple hours. So I did that. I came back, really at peace with like, you know what? God's got us. We just need to do our part. We'll find, there'll be another solution. Me personally speaking, I don't care if I have to clean toilets. Job-wise, I'll do whatever it takes to take care of my family, whether it's my skill set or not. I'll do as long and as hard as I have to get what I need to take care of my family.
So then we got a phone call from a friend that was from our wedding, and he said, I just fired my marketing person. I want to hire you and Liz to do all of our marketing. Come by tomorrow. I'll start writing you a check for $2,500 per month. But I don't want to work with that guy that you guys work for because I don't trust him. Right. I just want to work with you guys. And we're like, oh, by the way, we don't work there anymore.
As of 2 weeks ago. And he's like, well, that's good timing. Stop by tomorrow. You're on board. No, we didn't have a company name. We didn't have our corporation set up. We didn't have a checking account. Literally it was a personal check, the first one written out to us. And they actually were like one of the owners was actually saying, you know what? Is this like the 3rd time we paid you? Have you thought about opening up a corporation? And I'm like, in a bank account, because we like to pay you directly to your corporation versus 1099. You're like, oh, sure. Yeah. So we came up with the name, and within like 90 days, we're up and running with our first 3 clients.
Wow.
With our
that was
name.
good. Yeah.
It was traumatic, but fun. Definitely adventurous for sure.
Yeah. So hence the 87 counseling sessions that we're very proud of. And we figured your audience would love this transparency. I don't think I've ever had a bio where I share that, but I knew here.
If you're a therapist who listens right now, you know what dual relationship means. Being married to your spouse and also being in business with your spouse, it's a whole nother level of relational communication skill set that you need to take into consideration. We didn't know that when we did that. We're like, well, this just seems normal.
Yeah. People do this all the time.
Yeah. Marriage isn't hard enough as it is by itself. much less being married again to the same person for an entire commitment level. But
and SEO is not that hard.
And I was like, SEO's not that hard. I've watched the guy do it.
Everyone can get on Google. Sure.
I mean, I've watched these people do it, and I'm making phone calls. I'm setting up their SEO stuff. This can't be that hard. And then later on, like a year later, I'm like, man, SEO is hard.
Yeah.
You need to learn.
Yeah.
You need to learn. It's been a nonstop learning for me for 6-7 years now. To really master the local side.
That's the marketing game, right? Like especially SEO and Google, like they're constantly changing stuff. Like you could just things just don't always work from one year to the next. So yeah, you got the dual relationship, and then you have the constant learning and the changing, and then you got client management and all these things. And yeah, that thank you for sharing that. Like being vulnerable with our audience, with me, because it's yeah, that's a lot. And so thanks for being on the show. That's a great setup to these SEO tips that you're going to be sharing. So why don't you go ahead and actually, you know what, before we jump into the tips, maybe just explain briefly what SEO is in case a therapist listening doesn't know what it is and like why it's important.
I'll give you the analogy I give every single client that doesn't know anything about SEO. Because SEO is an acronym, an acrostic, an acronym, whatever you want to call it. It's search engine optimization is just a funny word that people don't know. I say look at Google like a football field. You've got 100 yards, and you have 10 yard. It's in 10-yard increments. And if you look at Google, the first 10 pages is what you get to see. Google only indexes they index past 10 pages, but 10 pages is the primary. So our job is to get your business on the football field for the keywords that people are searching for in Google, right? And once we know what those keywords are through research, both manual and automated, we get you on the field, right? And then we look for those keywords that matter to you in your city, geographically speaking. Because obviously in local SEO, it's like gravity. Everything gravitates towards your address. And our job is to push that keyword down the field progressively to get you to page 1 of Google. When you get to page 1, that's where your conversion starts. And then as you push up page 1 to the 3-pack and on the organic and on the zero snippet, rich snippet, you'll see higher conversion rates. And so that, to me, SEO in a nutshell that's what we have to do for our clients. And we have to show them then progressively, here's the ranking report. You see that we got your keywords on page 8. You see that, right? Yeah, it still sucks. Nobody can find you because the best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of Google or any other pages. But we're going to keep pushing the graveyard. So then the owner's like, oh, look, you're charging me so much money. Thank you. But look, I'm seeing progress. And then eventually over the months and sometimes over a year or more, depending on how hard it is to rank, like let's say for a 3.5 million person city like San Diego versus the entire state of California versus the entire United States, that is a long-term investment into the future of your business so that you're naturally going to be ranking.
But if you have smaller city, like we're in Point Loma in San Diego, it's a lot easier
you can rank the same day
for the small little area. So if you are in a small town, you've got a good advantage.
So basically, I think SEO to me is that, and it's just we're helping Google fall in love with your business because right now Google in most cases doesn't even know you exist, and so provides no authority, assigns no authority or credibility to you because one, they don't know you, you don't exist, there's no online properties pointing to and
also
from
a lot of therapists aren't getting reviews because you're not allowed to ask for reviews. So that's another problem with SEO. Reviews
on the
is
local
really
side,
important.
it's one of the more critical aspects of local SEO.
Yes.
I mean, if you want to get into that now, or you want to
get into the tips?
Yeah. Oh, let's get into the tips because my mind is like spinning already on this. I'm really excited. So yeah, jump in. So yeah, it's not so much like I just want to like pick your brain actually. But we can pick it. Let's pick our brains after we share some tips. So why don't you jump into tip number 1?
Yeah. So the biggest problem that we've seen with clients is you can't ask for reviews. So we all know that you can't ask for the reviews, but there is some workarounds that you can do to ask for reviews, not from your current patients you're working with, but with who?
Yeah, we recently are working with an equine assisted therapy service. That's on a 6-acre ranch in Atlanta, in Georgia, with a famous baseball player attached to it, retired. It's a Christian ministry. And they came to us because one of their volunteers said, "Hey, I tried to look you up on Google and I can't find you." So the ministry basically said, they've got, half a dozen horses. They've got, 3 or 4 therapists. They have a ranch hand manager. And they're like, this is not good. We're not on Google. Nobody can find us. So we got a phone call to help them get found on Google. And when I brought up the word reviews, I knew immediately there was going to be this wall. I can't ask my page for them, like, yeah, I know that. It's the ethics, the Association of Psychologists, 2014, guidelines for ethics. You cannot ask because of the relationship. Totally understand that. But what you can do, number one, there's 2 things you can do, maybe 3, but one is you can ask. Number one, you can make it easy for them to leave reviews if on their own they decide to leave you a review. You could have a link inviting them to leave private feedback, which eventually can lead to public feedback on your emails. That's not against ethical rules.
Like in the signature line.
In the signature line, because that is just giving them an opportunity to leave a review. But you're not asking them directly. You're not forcing them, because that's the whole purpose.
And having a link up on your website or just being on those review sites. So the 4 main review sites you want to be on is Google, Yelp, Facebook, Apple Maps is important.
And there might be some industry-related niche sites you need to be on for reviews for therapists that you might be valuable to be on.
But most people, we're talking about Google, and so Google would be the main.
Google would be the main, and then you want to do Barnacle SEO, which is Yelp and Facebook on the local side to tag them in and be part of your strategy. So that is number one of the review.
And Apple Maps is important because if people are getting directions to you, an iPhone user, it connects to Apple Maps. So you just want to make sure that you're set up over there. So it's not really, they're connected to Yelp, but there's a little extra work you have to do. Yeah. So asking for those reviews from friends, from vendors that you work with, referral partner vendors,
referring doctors that refer people to you, other doctors. So the strategy should be having an email strategy to ask partners, referring doctors, vendors, college friends, graduate friends, if they've interacted with the practice in some way, shape, or form, to leave a review based on their interaction and experience, not some fake review. That is an honest review in Google's eyes. It's about the experience they're having with your practice. So then it'll give you a heads up. It'll kind of give you a head start in acquiring reviews. Now, inside of that, tip number 1 is acquiring the keywords by asking the right questions and assisting them. You're not writing it for them. You're just saying, if you answer this question, it'll elicit this answer, which will have the keywords that need to be spoken in the review, so that Google will then index it on Google, because they crawl reviews. In fact, Google started a few years ago answering questions with reviews, and they've been beta testing that for a while. That might come on the market, where if someone says, is equine assisted therapy any good? There might be an instant review from literally from a local practice, an equine, that says a person who actually experienced the equine assisted therapy, it was a great experience. Now all of a sudden they have an answer inside of a testimonial inside of Zero Search Google, which is crazy, but that's where it's going. So that, I think, would
Zero Search. You guys know what Zero Search is? That's just the very top position. Yeah. You know what it is.
Yeah, he knows it. People listening.
People listening. Zero Search is, explain what that is.
It's really simple. Google's main goal is to answer every question on page 1 before you ever leave Google. And over 50% or something of searches never leave Google.
If you ever ask Google a question, they're going to answer that. You don't have to click a link to go find the answer. They're just going to display it. Correct. I'm seeing it on YouTube. I mean, it is like
everywhere.
The YouTube thing is insane right now, what they're doing. But let me go back to the reviews. So this is how I do it for my clients. For my partnership clients, if they hire anybody that's new, a new clinician comes on the team, what I do, regardless, I said, okay, reviews are going to be really important for you when people start searching, especially on Google. We're going to be able to use those reviews on the website, but it's one of those things where it's Google reviews is the tide that rises all ships for the whole practice, right? So what I said, like, contact if you've done any pro bono, just like if you have friends that you've just listened to well, and they're like, wow, that was so helpful. They're such a good listener. Like you said, former professors or teachers, that they could just write a review, just like testifying that you're a good therapist, in some way. They don't even have to be. Now, I read a blog post recently. This is interesting because there's all this debate about soliciting reviews. That it's a bit of a gray area, so you're going to need to use wisdom on this. But those who are no longer your clients, you've terminated them. They're no longer technically your clients.
Correct.
You could ask for review, but like you said, having something on your website or an email where you're not soliciting, but just making it easy for them to leave a review. But here's what I found: you don't get what you don't ask for. So
Right.
there'll be kind of like one-off things, but it's at least getting going. Look to your network. Someone who can at least say that you've helped them in some capacity is going to be really powerful. And then also having those keywords in there, like therapist, counseling, child therapist, equine, in the review, because I'm seeing them pop up on search results now. Like Google's just highlighting in bold, this website mentions this, or the review snippets themselves. So absolutely, reviews are like, I'll say this one last thing to you. If I had one website, if I only had one page, and the only thing I would do is like a header, and then it would just be all reviews. That's all I would have on it. And just people testifying to like how great you are. I saw a website like that and I almost bought the product. Like it was just scroll.
So
all
much
the testimonials.
undeniability that it's a great product or service. You're just like, okay, I'm sold.
Yeah. Here's my money. Okay. All right. Tip number 2. This is great.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about keywords. So you need to do quality research to get those keywords. So that is what's really important to do.
I agree with this 100%. And there's two schools of thinking. Get some really powerful tools that we have as well, agency level type tools like SEMrush, Ahrefs, Keyword Finder. Like there's a lot of really powerful tools, expensive tools, free tools. It's just like it's like fake news. There's a lot out there. And if you don't know how to use the tool properly, you'll just get mediocre results. And then you'll think that if I go up after therapists for the United States, that I can do that. No, you're not. So I think sometimes we get lost in the buying cycle. Like, what is the buying cycle for SEO? If I type in the word therapy in Google, and that is your most broadest keyword on the planet, you're not in the buying cycle. You type in the word therapy, you might be doing research, you might be writing a paper, you might want to look up the definition. Like in the buying cycle, you're so early that I don't know if you're ever going to buy anything from me ever.
But if you maybe search for like grief counselor.
If you search for grief counselor, and then that's the next level. But let's say you search for grief counselor in San Diego. Well, now you're interested. But if you look grief counselor in San Diego, that's near the Rock Church, or that's near the whatever. Well, their buying cycle, they're ready to buy. They're like, so the keyword research has to be related, I think, to what your people are typing in and where they are in the buying cycle, the sales cycle, or the buying cycle, the buyer's journey, they call it. So for us, the research side, if I was to give like one piece of advice around research, is don't do it by yourself. You're absolutely nuts if you try to figure it out. You could watch 1,000 YouTube videos. You might figure it out, but why? There's people who do this for a living, like us and you. And but our strategy is we do a combination of tools that are more for confirmation than anything else, but we do a manual review of our clients, because I think manually most people rely too heavily on tools. Liz loves doing the tools. I love the tools, but we started doing more manual this past year. But I'll give you an example. For Google My Business page itself, I always do that manually. I never rely on research.
So in one way, manual, like what I'm doing, I do a lot more of the blogging for clients.
Yeah.
And you can share how you're doing it for the SEO for the site. But for blogging, manually is, I can search and I can figure out which keywords sound really great. And I'm like, oh yeah, we could totally rank for this blog post and this keyword. But then what I'll do is I'll go and look at the 10 pages that are already showing up on page 1 of Google. I'll open up every tab and I'll see, can I write a better blog post than this person? Do I really want to put the effort in writing a better blog post to go after this keyword? Is it really going to be worth my time or our staff's time to do this? And that's one kind of manual thing where you use a tool, but then you go deeper and you're making a decision. You can't just have an AI or a tool tell you, can you write a better blog post? You really have to look at it and make that decision. That's one way I do manual for blogging.
And then all of a sudden, when you're doing the research, you stumble across these long tail keywords that are like gold nuggets. They're like hidden treasure. I found one recently for this current client, the equine horse therapy client. And believe it or not, equine service benefits, which you would think, oh, that's a keyword. Well, that keyword in that particular, competitively, I'll give this away. But that keyword is so.
And now everyone is going to use this keyword.
I can write a blog post about that right now, and I could post it today, and I'll probably be ranking for it in a few days. But it has over the last 90 days, over 350 people searched that just off one tool. If the manual review tells me that it's probably 2 to 3 times that. So why wouldn't I dedicate a blog post or a services page to talk about the benefits? And then, but that's part of the deliverables that we sent to this client. We told them that this is where we would start writing content about. They haven't hired us for that portion of it. They're waiting. They're going into budget mode for the next year.
Oh, yes. Nonprofit budget mode. Oh,
Yep,
yeah.
That's how it works. And so I think the quality of the research you do is more important than actually putting out content, because if you don't know where they are in the buying cycle, and you could write forever and rank for stuff that'll never convert to anything. Because here's the fallacy.
Or like people show up for TikTok. Was that you that did a TikTok blog? You got all this traffic? Robert doesn't know the story. Does your audience know the story?
So one of the things, so my wife's private practice that I support, Kid Matters Counseling, we get a lot of questions about technology and kids. So Susan's practice focuses on kids 2 to 12. And I was like, let's just do something on TikTok. And so we we did a blog post, like 5 things parents need to know about TikTok. Our website was blowing up from traffic. Oh, we were ranking in the top 5, like globally, for like parents and Google. What Google was doing was just like testing out all these different types of keywords. So we were ranking for just TikTok. We were ranking for TikTok kids. We were ranking for TikTok and not so like nasty stuff, right? Like with kids, you know what I mean? But Google was we were ranking for all of this stuff.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, so this is great traffic. We actually don't need traffic from Taiwan or London, because our therapists can't really I guess they could practice overseas, but they can't practice outside of Illinois. Well, the thing is we were getting traffic from Illinois, but the people where they were in that, like you said, that buying cycle, they weren't necessarily looking for therapy. And maybe not at all. They were just looking for help on TikTok. Now, we did get people signing up for our newsletter, so that's a plus. But where they were in that buying cycle, not good. So what we did is we wrote another blog post, is how to explain counseling to kids. And that ranks really well. I think it still does. That's like our second highest traffic generator.
Wow.
And so that people were in the buying cycle, hey, someone might actually be interested in counseling at this point, and if they have to explain it to their kids. So that's a tale of 2 blog posts, I guess.
And since we're talking about blog posts, that leads into the third point, is once you have your quality research done, now you can write local content because you want local customers. So what is going on locally? And yes, you can do larger posts like how to explain counseling to kids and attract the local audience, but writing content for your local market, what is going on in your city, especially if you're focused on kids. I mean, gosh, so much kids and Zoom and all this online school. There's so much content, cell phones, and
you got tons of content in that.
Lots to talk about.
Yeah, I think the keyword research would lead you into a good content plan. I think that's where that'll go, whether you do topic and then cluster it around the topic, or if you just find your top 10 things and they're around 2 or 3 keywords, and that's where you start writing to see what kind of traction you get with Google. And then you just kind of adjust and modify every couple months and just kind of see how things are going and then kind of refocus. So there's different strategies around content, obviously. I think for local, you could probably generate 20 or 30 blog posts, and maybe package it out, and with really good research, really good topics, and that would destroy your competition locally. It would just, because nobody's writing any content. So it's like an open.
And if they do, it's just this kind of boring and general, nothing interesting.
It's a photo and one paragraph, or it's like a newsletter that nobody reads, or it's just pathetic, to be honest. And they need some therapy. Their content needs a little bit of therapy. They need some sessions. Me and the newsletter got to have a conversation. Hey, Mr. Newsletter, you're not. This is depressing me, Mr. Newsletter. You're just not getting out there. Anyway, joking aside.
So I have a question on local content. Excuse me. So therapist, local, I'm just curious what you would write. Because you want content that people will want to share it, right? So that's important with the content. But I'm just curious, because this is sort of the next level question, why I'm having my clients do podcasts. I want them to do podcasts interviewing pediatricians, physicians. One, it's just great networking. I mean, like what we're doing now, right? We're having a good conversation. It's gonna last. Like that's gonna have that affects this thing that we're doing. And so, but also the backlinks. And so I'm just curious. Like podcast seems like a really easy way, but when it comes to written content, like where do you start? What do you suggest? What do you see working?
You mean in terms of working, in terms of the ranking side of it, or just in figuring out what your customers?
I think it's from the ideas. Like, what are the content ideas?
Yeah, there's I was gonna say there's like a Venn diagram between like local SEO and then content that seems to work. Those.
Gotcha. Okay, you're talking kind of the relationship a few years ago with Google was that if you write content for your local market, you will automatically get on the 3-pack in a lot of cases. But it's been mixed bag with Google over the last 5 years. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We've seen 70-80% of the time it works. It helps get you onto the 3-pack as well, because let's be honest, you're probably the only authority writing content in the area, unless you're up against a chain or some other company that's hired an SEO company.
So first, I like where you're going with do you like to do podcasts? Do you like to write blogs? Do you like to do videos? You have to choose which is your content that you're going to do and pick one of them and do it consistently and do your best job. You don't have to try to do all of it. Google loves seeing blog posts though. But like with our clients, when we get them ranking, we pull back on the blog posts. We don't have to do a weekly blog anymore. Some clients we're doing 2 blogs a week or
more in-depth blog.
Yeah.
Might be important. Might be one blog, but it's more pillar style. It's more like it's a longer post.
So some other ideas, especially around collaborating. So I'm sure like with the podcast you shared is collaborating with other people that have your ideal clients. And when things were open and you could put on events, this is what I really liked. The strategy is local businesses partnering and putting on a little event. Like we have a client that yearly they give away $10,000 in turkeys, and they live in a low income area. They have 5 location laundromat, and it just started giving away these turkeys to their customers. Well, then the others in the shopping center wanted to get involved. Then the news got involved. And then we have a video crew out there so we can record videos and write blogs about it. So that's an event where you bring people together, and it's really easy to create this piece of PR. So then people would contact like a year later, like even now, like people still watch the video, and we didn't do anything this year. I think everyone kind of cut back a little bit this year and wasn't able to give as much as they'd like to because they're trying to pay their employees. But that's like one thing is partnering, figuring out what is some kind of fun event. I just did a blog post talking about how to make your employees have more fun and what are some things you can do on Zoom as like an event, like a magic show, happy hour. You do some kind of fun event where you're getting other people involved, then you write about it on your blog? And as for therapists particularly, I
think I would start in terms of content with a therapist or with any business. I would start listing out the problems they solve. Like, what problems are they solving? And then find out, well, what's their most profitable area of their business? Like, if it is kids, like let's say kids is where, it's 3 times the margins, well, then maybe they should start focusing on that one first. And writing a topic cluster, or, a cluster of keywords or topics around that.
Yeah, so understanding what's going on with the school system, are schools opening, like what are some things that locally that are going on. I try to keep it more positive versus the negative stuff, because you can always watch the news and it's just too much. But if you can pay attention to what are the positive things that are happening related to your medical practice and highlight those other businesses in a blog, or you bring them onto your podcast, or you give them a shout out like on your Instagram stories, like that can just drive more traffic to your website.
Correct. That's a great way to do it. And this is one of the things that I think clients miss because they're not in our industry, is that they don't know what the difference is between a blog and a page on their website. Like, what makes a blog, and what makes a page on your website a page on your website? Sometimes it's confusing for local businesses. And what makes a blog is, one, it can be relevant. That's a blog post, right? If it's relevant news. If it's an announcement, those can be blog posts. And blog posts, the way I determine it, is that if it's a subject that is a service, well, it shouldn't be necessarily on a blog post. You should consider that maybe it should be a page on your website. Like if you're writing about equine service benefits, equine therapy benefits, well, that is a service page that you would write that on their website to rank the page versus a blog post. The blog post could support it by saying, hey, how does this therapy help with PTSD or autism or depression? Or what type of people can benefit from this type of therapy. So those are blogs that are related keywords to the service page, because it supports the service page, interlinking back and forth. And I think that is a better strategy, knowing when a blog should be a page on your website versus where it should be only a blog. Because you can't have a blog ranking for something that's high traffic to your business, but the reality is it's better if it lives on your website and that the blog supports the website.
And then your blog needs to link to the right page that you're trying to promote, or the free offer you're wanting to grow your email list with.
Yeah, obviously.
So it needs to all connect all together.
Yes.
For the new people out there, linking inside of your website, we know it's important to link internally, because Google follows the links and they want to know that you're providing more in-depth related information as they're cruising your website.
Got it. Wow. Was that just tip number 2? Or did we go into tip number 3?
That was 3.
I think we went with tip 5 or 6. 5. I don't know. 7 maybe? I was 7.5. It's because these subjects are all interlinked.
Yeah. Tip number 3 was you have to produce really great local content.
Yeah, and don't be scared. I would say don't be scared. Just do something. I mean, if you don't have a big budget, it's not hard to pick some decent keywords, at least your starter keywords, I'd call them, and just write. And then get a professional, obviously like us or yourself, to make sure that those those articles are actually optimized and targeted for your audience.
Yeah, that's a good word. All right, quick break, sponsor break now. So before we go on, I want to remind the listener about a free resource you can take advantage of today. Look, most mental health professionals open a private practice to help more people and to make more money. The problem is they lack a clear marketing strategy. That's why I created the Private Practice Marketing Roadmap. It's a free video training series that will walk you through my 3 pillars of private practice marketing. If you need fresh ideas about marketing yourself as a clinician or your private practice, or you just need a marketing strategy, go to brandyourpractice.com/roadmap. It's completely free, and it will help you generate that pipeline of new clients that you want. You won't grow unless you have a plan, so go to brandyourpractice.com/roadmap and sign up for the free course today and get started. All right. Is there anything else regarding local SEO that you want to share? maybe a bonus tip if you have it in your back pocket before we close out.
Definitely bonus tips. They got lots of those.
So this is the best bonus tip ever.
The best bonus tip ever? Wow. There's quite a few of them. But here's what I would say. I'm trying to think of something easy. Okay, if it's an DIY versus us doing it for you.
DIY.
DIY?
Yeah. DIY.
DIY. An easy one would be start posting on Google My Post. I mean, it's very
Google My Business
Google
Post.
My Business Post. It takes you could learn how to do it in probably 15 minutes, and it expires every 7 days. But recently, it's starting to show up on longer, up to 30 days now. That's a quick way to get more visibility local, and Google considers that like another link. Like it's another part of the web that is local. That's something you can do yourself. Now, obviously, agencies like ours and his, you tend to put that into some of the packages as part of your offering. Mm-hmm. We think they're valuable. Google thinks they're valuable. Are they first things you do? No, it's more like it should be part of your overall strategy, and you can do it versus.
And that's something anyone can do. You just need a Google My Business page, and then you can click on post and add a photo. You could talk about one of your services. You could put a URL link or have them click to call your business. So it's really easy, and it's fun to see how many people click on it, and you're like, oh, these posts are actually being shown. Cool.
Now the non-DIY tip. Don't ever do it yourself, is try to build backlinks by yourself. Never do backlinks. Trust me, whoever's listening, never do it. You will pay a steep price for your business trying to do it on your own. The easiest way to do this is to hire Brent over here, an agency, and he'll help you on how to build your local directory listings, because a good strategy for part of your local visibility strategy is to have other directories that are prominent in Google's eyes, like Google My Business, Yelp, mm-hmm. Apple Maps. Facebook is a review site, but think of a listing like anything where your name, address, and phone number is living on the internet, on a profile somewhere, on an association page. Even some random sites like yellowpages.com. These are really random, but I'm telling you, these provide these really good backlinks, but let a professional help you. If you try to do these on your own, you'll be paying 10 times that to a professional to fix the problem.
Yeah. Oh man, we should just have a 10-part series on local SEO because there's so much. Going back to Google My Business, this is what I tell my clients. People, they're like, I need a Facebook page. I want to be doing more on Instagram, and to me, those channels are dead. Like, to me, it's like, unless you're willing to do ads on them, it's pay to play now.
Yep.
And to me, it's like top of funnel, long game. Those people that are in those, they may not ever buy. For me, I'm like the first. I don't know if you should consider Google My Business social. It's kind of social-esque because you're sharing pictures and posts and those things. I say make that your number one social channel right now for a local business, for a local private practice. That is your social. Focus on that.
Yes. 100%.
That's what I say. Because
you could also, I just remembered another quick tip, the Q&A section on Google.
Oh yeah.
You can actually ask the questions and answer them for your audience currently in Google's current format. Soon you might not be able to.
Okay, yeah. I'll have to do that. Because the most common questions therapists are going to get is like, do you accept my insurance?
Yep.
What are your rates? Right now is, do you have availability?
Mm-hmm.
So it's.
Are you seeing patients in person or on Zoom, online?
That's right. So yeah, I make Google My Business your primary social, and then link those product pages that you have on your website to the products on Google My Business, or the services. Which one is it? The products that get they get so much real estate on a Google search. I'll share this one last thing. So I have one client. She is a partnership client. She's crushing it. She just wanted to do marriage counseling. I was like, perfect. You're niched down, because the further you niche down, the wider you can go in Google My Business and local search. And I don't even do paid ads. I don't even do Google ads for her. Like, her Google My Business is like 90% of the intakes that are coming in. It's ridiculous. And then I started tracking the Google My Business more using the UTM links. I'm like, holy cow, Google My Business is a massive lead generator. So the local businesses have to focus on that. And the thing is, they don't. No, it's very rare. It's so rare. And it's just sitting there for you, and then it's free.
It's free
until Google starts monetizing it, which they probably will shortly. But
probably will. Well, local ads are kind of starting it, right? They're starting to, if you do the background check and the license check, you can get that famous green mark on the top now.
Get that.
Shortly.
I want as many check marks as I can get.
Yeah, green check mark, blue, whatever you can get. Get me more in front of more people. Yeah, that's why I concurrently agree with you 100% that if you only had one thing to do for your local business, learn Google My Business page and just master that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, wow. Thank you so much, Liz and Robert, for joining me today. Where can people go to find out more about you and your services?
Yeah, they can go to, actually, we have a free offer for them. Hey. So it's the 5 hacks that will get you on page 1 of Google. We talk about a few of them on today's podcast, but we go more into depth and with video showing you what to do step by step. So that you'll go to RebelFishLocal.com/5 hacks. That's 5-hacks, the number 5.
All right.
And
RebelFishLocal.com. 5-hacks, the number 5.
Got
All right,
it.
I'm writing this down.
Yep. So it's the 5 hacks that will get you on page 1 of Google.
Wow. Well, and that's important to get on page 1 of Google. That is the best real estate. Well, okay, we talked about getting those reviews in, doing some keyword research for your web page, so you make sure your pages have those important keywords on them. Because at the end of the day, how does Google know what your page is about? The words that are on them. So having keywords and then having local content on your blog or something like that is really important. So thanks so much for joining me today. And thanks for listening, dear listeners. If you found this conversation useful, subscribe to the podcast and please join me again for the next time for the Brand Your Practice podcast.